I don't like the pictures of Bill Clinton being shown. I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing. I think Bill Clinton's a big boy. He can handle it. But you probably have pictures being exposed of other people that innocently met Jeffrey Epstein years ago, many years ago. And they're, highly respected bankers and lawyers and others. Because what this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party.
The Mar-a-Lago walls are having a Merry Christmas because it's been a tough week for Donald. Think about it. The redirection backfired, and the American people are now demanding even more disclosure, which means Trump is in trouble. It wasn't until I started meeting some of the other women from different countries and different states where I really started to hear their stories, and of course, as a survivor sister and going through what I went through, I do believe these girls, but at the end of the day, I am no longer supporting this administration. I redact any support I've ever given to him. Pam Bondi Cash Vital, I am so disgusted with this administration. I think that Pam Bondi and Cash Vital both need to resign, and I would love to see number 47 get impeached over this. You see, this week's been a master class in how not to manage a political crisis, with the Department of Justice releasing more documents from the long-awaited Epstein files, as required by the Epstein Files Transparency Act, that Donald Trump himself signed, and rather than calm the storm, the administration's response only added fuel to the fire. The Justice Department has now released a big new batch of documents in Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Headline here is quite clear. Donald Trump is all over these documents, that Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet, quote, more times than previously has been reported, at least 8 times between 1993 and 96, now on a flight in 1993. According to the email, there was just 3 passengers, Trump, Epstein, and what's described as a 20-year-old woman. In fact, at one point, Trump's team even tried to shift public focus away from Donald Trump and on to Bill Clinton, but the thing is, that attempt didn't just fail. It completely blew up in their face, because it ended up with Clinton calling for all of the Epstein files to be released. Breaking news, how Bill Clinton and Donald Trump were both in the Epstein files. Well, while Donald Trump is hiding the truth, Bill Clinton just called his bluff. Through a spokesperson, Clinton has demanded that the DOJ release every single instance of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files. Why? Because he says he has nothing to hide. And he wants the public to know because he believes that Donald Trump is selectively releasing documents. That may make him look bad. Now think about it. If Donald Trump had an Epstein file that made Bill Clinton look really guilty, you don't think he would have wanted to release that a long time ago? Last month, the head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, Bill Pulte, launched a mortgage fraud probe against you. You sued the administration, deny any wrongdoing. Now Reuters reports that Pulte appeared to source a conspiracy theory website as the basis for that probe. What's going on here? Well, the Reuters story shows that what Pulte is doing to me and Adam Schiff is completely nonsense. My lawsuit against Pulte is not, and I'm going to stay on offense. That's the only way you can take these guys on. I've brought a suit against Pulte for a First Amendment violation. For a privacy law violation, we're going to have some news on this as well. We're expanding who we believe has information on this, but you have to stay on offense with these guys, and so as I look at Californians who are running through the fields where they work, or who have troops in the streets, or cancer funding that's been canceled by the administration, you have to be on offense. That's the only way you can defend the most vulnerable people in our community. Otherwise, they won't get the message. Under immense public and congressional pressure, the Justice Department has begun posting the government's Epstein files, including photos and records of Epstein's associations with powerful people, and these postings included former President Bill Clinton, which, by the way, Republicans love to come out and say, well, what about Bill Clinton? He's not president, and trust me, no notable Democrat is out here going to bat for Bill Clinton to avoid scrutiny, hence why they're calling for the full release of everything. But anyway, back to it, faced with renewed scrutiny over his own connections, including flight logs that run contrary to Trump's claims. In the past, the Trump White House tried a classic political maneuver, point to someone else and hope that the crowd looks in that direction. Instead of focusing on Trump's history with Epstein, the administration
They may
urged
have
attention
hoped for
on
some
Clinton's
form of
appearances
retreat.
in the files.
Bill Clinton's team
And
hit
while
back,
they
not
may
by
have hoped
deflecting,
for some
but
form
by
of retreat,
embracing
Bill
transparency.
Clinton's team
Clinton's
hit back not by
spokesperson publicly
deflecting,
criticized
but by embracing
how the files were being
transparency.
released
Clinton's
and called for
spokesperson
the immediate
publicly
disclosure
criticized how the
of
files were
any
being
remaining
released and
documents
called
that
for the
reference
immediate
Clinton or
disclosure of
include
any
photos of
remaining
him, arguing
documents
that selective
reference
release
Clinton or include
creates
photos
the
of him,
appearance
arguing
of
that
protection
selective
for
release
some
creates the appearance of protection. For some people, that's right. Clinton demanded the release of all the files, including those the Trump administration was trying to hold back, claiming it was down to victim protection, redactions, and gradual rollout, and that push directly undercut what the White House was trying to do here. They were attempting to divert focus to Clinton while soft-pedaling Trump's own involvement. So in this latest group of documents, the president was named, it shows he flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane at least 8 times in the 1990s, although very recently he denied that he was ever on the plane. Does this raise new questions for you? Yes, I think that there are multiple things. The fact that he flew on those planes, the fact that he is, named in multiple ways. What occurs to me in reading, just trying to go through the batch of documents that's been released. Chris, is that everybody that was in Epstein's orbit, including the president, knew what Epstein was doing. There are references by one person that we think was the former Duke of York. To inappropriate guests, there is a letter from Epstein to Nasser, which I should say hasn't been confirmed, or we don't know if it's been confirmed to be from Epstein, in which he refers to Trump and his desire for young, nubile women. So everything in these files seems to indicate that, number one, Trump was deeply engaged with Epstein, and that he knew what was going on, and the fact that their relationship was built, according to the New York Times report, on a desire for young women, really focused around that whole aspect of what Epstein was about, I think is very important. I will also note that there, when you initially tried to search the files for Trump, nothing showed up if you searched for Trump with a space. Then there were multiple items that showed up so clearly that to me also raises questions of, did the DOJ try to block the search for just the word Trump, but then they forgot to block the search for the word Trump with a space after it? I don't know how long that's going to stay live on the DOJ site, frankly, now that it's been pointed out. But all of these things, I think, again, just are unbelievable and outrageous. Massive cover-up by this DOJ and by all the people that were involved in the investigation. In the past couple of decades, and from a political standpoint, this whole episode, it only further exposes the lengths that Team Trump will go to try and hinder or deflect the full release of this material. I mean, let's recap for a second, because the list is long. Right, first, they basically ran on the idea that they'll release all the files, calling themselves the most transparent administration in history. Pam Bondi said they were on her desk, remember? The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed, because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies. So, have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh, not yet, haha, okay. Well, we'll check back with you. Then there was likes of Kash Patel getting in front of Republicans and Democrats and saying that Epstein didn't traffic to anyone else, despite the now released files, saying that there were more than 10 co-conspirators who, if anyone did, Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday, that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited, so the answer is no one. For the information that we have in the files, in the case file then, who can forget Trump's efforts to influence how Republicans voted? Regarding the release, calling the likes of Lauren Boebert into war room-like meetings. Few people in politics are more polarizing, but put politics aside and consider what is being reported by the New York
Information we have
Times,
again is limited.
CNN, and others that President Trump directly pressured Boebert to help him stop the release of the Epstein files by pulling her support off a congressional petition and sinking that effort. Reports say the Trump White House also brought Boebert into the Situation Room for a meeting with the Attorney General and the FBI Director who, we should note, are accused of using the Justice Department to punish people who defy the president. And by all appearances, Boebert did defy the president. Quite clear Donald Trump is all over these documents. In that first trove that the Justice Department released on Friday, there were just a few very scant mentions of Trump, including in a picture collected with a bunch of other pictures. In this one, there is already one very illuminating, email that was sent during the first presidency of Donald Trump, while prosecutors in the Southern District of New York were working on the case against Epstein. Conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. This is after Epstein's death, and one of those prosecutors writes, I'm going to read from this letter, because it is what was new to the prosecutors at the time, and what is new to us now, receiving these documents now in the public sphere, from the Justice Department. Then there was the trickled-out, botched redactions. It all just runs contrary to the claim that Trump has nothing to hide. Because if that was the case, why all the meddling? And it's now getting to the point that his once trusted allies like, say, Rupert Murdoch can no longer